Remember who is providing for your buying and your selling right now. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath School Study Group. As we are now in part 4 of studying how to manage in the tough times, what to do when we cannot buy or sell. That is a question about the future. And it's a question about future crises that automatically brings on fear. It brings on anxiety. It brings on even frustration. That feeling, that mindset is antithetical to where a believer should be, particularly a believer in tough times, because that's the whole purpose of my belief. It's kind of like a life raft, or if I have a life jacket. When the boat turns over or when I'm thrown overboard, that's not the time for me to be concerned about the viability of my life raft. In fact, it's at that time that I actually say, wow, I'm almost glad that this happened, because I get to see how well this life raft works. I get to see how this vest really does work. I made the investment. Now I'm actually getting an opportunity to follow through on that investment. So crisis and Christianity, they actually go together in a certain way. So now when we see this, we now have to see this as God sees it. And what he wants us to know is, hello, what I'm going to do tomorrow, it's not going to be changed by what's happening today. And what I'm doing today, hopefully it lets you know I'm actually pretty good at tomorrow's too. See, in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 through 17, we are informed that this beast, this lamb-like beast, but speaks as a dragon, he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. This is the prophecy of Revelation 13. We have many studies on this topic, and I'm going to encourage you to watch those studies in addition if you're not quite sure who's being talked about here in Revelation 13. But I will say this in short, that what Revelation 13 is prophesying is that there is going to come a time when the U.S. government and the government of the world, they will be enforcing laws that are based on where and how we worship, who we worship, and when we worship. And at that time, the only individuals who will be able to buy and sell are those who've agreed to participate in this process. So by default, if we remain faithful, the Bible says we're going to have some challenges. But look here in Proverbs chapter 3 and verse number 9. Here is a life raft text. Here is where we can see what God is doing today, he can continue to do tomorrow. Honor the Lord with thy substance, and with the first fruit of all thine increase. This is a principle that does not just benefit us for the sake of worship, but it also works on our faith. In other words, we're not doing this to work, but it does work on our faith. It helps us to say, you know what? I'm giving this portion to you to recognize that it all belongs to you. So if it all belongs to God, and if he's the one who's actually taking it from his storehouse to me, how can man interfere with God who's providing? Now, they may say, we're going to take this from you, we're going to keep this from you, but they can't take what God gives. You know, people talk about joy and say the world didn't give it, so the world can't take it away. Well, if the world can't take the joy that God's given me, if the world can't take the peace that God has given me, how can the world take the provision that God has given me? So clearly, Revelation 13 is admonishing us to not have a dependence on a beast or on the world that's one day going to turn its back on us who believe in God. What Jesus wants us to remember is that if these things are being maintained without human intervention, do you think that God has the ability to care for you without human intervention? Yes, right? That's the rhetorical answer. But do you know that because you believe he's doing it now? Like, it's not you and your job. It's not you and your pension. It's not you and Social Security. It's not you and anyone else. It's God. When we can recognize that and really are settled into that, even though he provides through the job, through a pension, through Social Security, or through whatever, we know that's just the cup. That's just the package. But the contents, the power, the actual provision, this is through God. If you take away the package, if you take away the thing or the cup, you still don't take away the provision. And God has promised, and he says, I have 1,000 ways to provide for you of which ye know not. So rather than trying to count those 1,000 ways, how about we try to count on one? And that's him himself. Today, he'll take care of tomorrow.